Hi, everybody. My name is Justin. I'm an instructional designer at Hunter College. I work in the Center for Online Learning. I also teach at Hunter as an adjunct in the graduate applied digital sociology program. So this semester, I'm teaching a course in digital content creation, and I did some experimenting with generative AI, and I'm very excited to share some of the things I've learned with all of you. So thank you so much for coming. So to begin, just to be sure we're all on the same page, what is a multimedia assessment? A multimedia assessment uses some combination of audio and visual content to communicate ideas instead of relying on the written word alone. So say instead of assigning your students to write an essay or research paper, they can create a podcast, a video, a narrated presentation, something like that. Why should we use multimedia assessments? I don't have a citation for this, but I think it's fair to say that most of our students, most of the independent assessment in our students' lives has been focused on writing. You know, ever since you've learned the first, how to write the 3-paragraph essay in grammar school, doing written responses and exams, writing research papers, a lot of writing. So obviously, we can all agree that it's important to have very good writing skills, but it's really only one dimension of the communication skills that students really need to know. Giving them the opportunity to create multimedia content allows them to practice oral communication, speaking, interviewing, narrating, as well as visual communication. Okay. And luckily, now there are more online resources available than ever for instructors who are not so familiar with multimedia creation tools to learn how to do it and how to share that knowledge with their students. So we've all been faced with the blank page in many points in our lives, in writing, in creating basically anything. But the blank page can be especially scary for students who are new to creating multimedia. It requires new creative and technical skills for which they generally have less training. They have to be able, if they're creating an audio assignment, they need to be able to record and edit audio. If they are creating a video assignment, they need to record and edit video. They need to understand the basics of storyboarding or how to sort of sketch out how you want a video to look or to be laid out. Or just something like speaking on camera. These are all, these will be new or less familiar skills for a lot of our students. So one thing that I thought about in preparing for teaching my class this semester is how can generative AI sort of help the students along to make it easier for them to learn what I really want them to learn. But it can help, but to help them do the things that they don't necessarily know to do so well, or that are just kind of peripheral to what I really want them to be learning. And I started to think about, assistance. I still have this memory. I don't have a lot of memories from my grammar school days, but I remember my grammar school art teacher teaching us about Picasso and how Picasso would have assistants sort of create some of the paper elements of some of the collages that Picasso made, so that Picasso didn't necessarily cut all of the pieces of paper, but he placed them, and by being the one that placed them, it was his work. So it really, and like I said, I don't remember a lot from that time in my life, but it really made an impression on me. So I thought about, what other creative minds have used assistants in their lives, and I found plenty of good examples. Andy Warhol delegated a lot of his artistic production to assistants. James Patterson, when he writes, the book, next month's book, it seems like he has like a new book every month. He sketches out like an 80-page outline that that a writer will flesh out the entire book. Michelangelo had up to, we all love to imagine him up on his back painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, but he had a lot of assistants too. He would sketch out what the paintings would look like, but his assistants would actually put the brush to the ceiling. And Picasso collaborated with Julio Gonzalez on a lot of sculptures. Julio Gonzalez helped him with the 3D composition of his sculptures, but all of those sculptures in the modern day are attributed solely to Picasso. So Just like all of those great creative minds took advantage of assistants, generative AI can be used as your student's assistant. So creating or curating supplemental content like background music, cover images, graphics, stock video content, or curating stock video content, or writing or brainstorming for core content in a multimedia work, conducting research, generating summaries and descriptions, and creating interview questions. So here's an example of a multimedia assessment that you can try. Creating a podcast. Students will create a 10-minute podcast about a topic. I kind of made the 10-minute length up, but keep in mind 250 words is equal to about a single page paper, which is equal to about 2 minutes of spoken audio. So if you want to get to the, say if you want to incorporate this into your class, keep that in mind. So say if you would have had them write a 5-page research paper, that'd be equal to about 10 minutes. You can choose to standardize on a specific platform, or you can let the students choose depending on their skill level. At the beginner level, we have Adobe Podcast, which is super, super easy to learn for basically anybody. What it does is it takes the recorded speech and transcribes it into text. So students can basically edit a podcast just like they'd be editing a Google Doc or a Word document. They can select blocks of text, they can move it around, they can add little interstitial bits of music and things like that. It's very, very easy to use, but it's difficult to do editing with any real level of precision. And of course, it's unlike basically any other audio editing tool. So if you really want the students to learn audio editing, that's the easiest, but it may not be the best option. At the intermediate level, Soundtrap is a cloud-based digital audio workstation. It's used a lot in K through 12 schools. The two primary markets their primary market is probably music. They're marketed a lot to K through 12 music teachers, but they have a podcast mode or component that works really, really well. It's free. There's a paid school version that you can get, but it is free. And students will store all their work in the cloud, so they don't have to worry about keeping track of files. Which now with the proliferation of cloud-based tools, I find, at least with my students, they struggle with that, with keeping all of the files of their work linked together. And at the advanced level, the tool that I'm using in my course is Pro Tools Intro. Pro Tools, for many years, and arguably is still the industry standard audio editing software used in professional studios, but they have a free version called Pro Tools Intro that has a lot of the features of the full version, but it's limited to only 8 tracks. So for any spoken word project, 8 tracks should be plenty. So that's a great option if you're teaching, say, a graduate level course or something where you really want the students to have a deep understanding of how to work with audio. How can generative AI help? Here's a few examples that I've used. The first two I've used a lot in my teaching this semester. Suno is a platform that generates music. So you can use Suno to create intro music, outro music. Say, if you have your students doing a radio drama or some sort of creative audio work, Suno can help them find music that'll fit the tone of their work. And they can also create background music behind what they're behind their speaking in the middle of the podcast or at the beginning or the end. For the podcast that I'm asking my students to create, I basically required them to include intro and outro music, and a lot of my students found Suno to be a really great tool for that. It will also it's great at generating instrumental music. It can also generate vocals. That part of it is not as good, but still really cool. Like it could actually write you a song based on a prompt. But for background music, that worked really, really well. Notebook LM is really a study tool developed by Google to help students sort of retain what they've learned from notes or other academic works. Like you can feed it a research paper, any piece of media, and it will summarize it for you in visual form, but it will also create an audio summary that kind of sounds like a podcast. There are these two characters that talk to each other about what you fed into it. So that can be a really great option if you want to create content for students to start working with. Like for me, I used it for an editing assignment. So when I wanted my students to learn how to edit audio, I had them create their own AI generated podcast using NotebookLM. And then, of course, we have the common text-based generative AI tools like ChatGPT, Copilot, and Gemini to generate some of the supplemental content, supplemental text content to help the students create a podcast. So here's an example of an assessment that I used in my class. So basically, I prompted my students to feed a research paper they had written. Keep in mind, my course is a graduate level course, so I was working under the assumption that the students had done some research previously. So I said, take your undergraduate thesis, something that you've written that you understand very well, feed into NotebookLM, and have it generate a podcast, or what NotebookLM calls an audio summary. So for this particular student, it generated an audio summary, which is about 13 minutes long. I had them download it, import into Pro Tools Intro, and then I asked them to separate the two voices in the file into separate tracks, and then edit the resulting podcast down to 5 minutes or less while retaining some key points of the original text. So in a pre-AI world, I would have gathered up some sample audio and given it to my students to edit. This actually gave me the opportunity to have every student have their own customized audio to work with on a topic that they knew really well. So here's about a minute of one of my students' submissions. You can hear the editing. They were still refining their editing skills a little bit. So you can hear where their edits are, but you can get a sense of the kind of content that NotebookLM is capable of generating.
Everybody. Today we're going deep on something that I think affects all of us every day, is how search engines shape how we see the world.
Yeah.
We got this really fascinating essay from Maria Rodriguez. Rodriguez really digs into how search engines can actually be reinforcing harmful stereotypes.
It's true.
Even though they're supposed to be neutral.
Yeah.
Like they're holding up this distorted mirror to society, making existing biases even worse. Rodriguez actually mentions this book.
Okay.
Algorithms of Oppression. Have you heard of it?
Yes, I have. It's a good one.
So the author of that book, Sofia Umojanobl,
Right.
she argues that these biases are like baked into the algorithms themselves.
It's not intentional usually.
Okay.
But the people who write the code, they have their own biases and they can creep in.
I see.
And these algorithms are really just like sets of instructions. They determine what information gets shown and how it's ranked.
Wow. So even tiny biases in the code can make a huge impact.
Huge.
Yeah, it's a little weird. What do y'all think of it? Yeah, so it really impressed me the first time I heard it. And there's really no rhyme or reason to it. Both of these like made up characters, like sometimes the male voice sort of takes the lead and the other one asks the male voice questions. Sometimes the female voice takes the lead. But for me, it was really an excellent tool. And of course, you can kind of tell like some of the words get a little garbled, like it doesn't always speak them clearly. But it was it was really helpful for me. Like it was really a great intro to working with audio for my students. So I found it to be really, really useful and really successful. Yeah. And I'll at the very end, I'll share a QR code so you can download all my slides. Because I don't expect you to actually be able to read this, but here's a sample rubric for assessing podcast assignments. There are some, obviously, when it comes to content, you can share some elements of a rubric you would use for written work, but there are some audio specific facets of what the students are creating where you may want to rank them on a rubric, like the technical production items, enunciation, delivery when speaking, things like that. So that give you some inspiration for aspects of the student's work that you may want to rate on a rubric. So here's another example of a multimedia assessment, creating a video. So students will create a 4-minute video about a topic. Again, I kind of made that up, but keep in mind, with video, the students have to figure out the visual element of the work as well as the audio. So it could generally take it can take a lot longer for them to create the whole work. So just keep that in mind, especially if it's going to be their first time. And again, you can choose to standardize on one platform for the entire class, or you can offer to let the students use whatever tool they'd like. And again, there's tons of great online resources for how to learn these tools. At the beginner level, Adobe Express is an excellent tool for editing video. It's completely cloud-based. It's free. In CUNY, at most campuses, at least at Hunter, you can request Adobe CC licenses for your students for a specific semester so they can get access to the paid version. But even with the free version, it's very effective. But it's basic. You can do cuts, you can do inserts, you can maybe do titles, and then beyond that, it cannot necessarily it's limited in what it's able to do. At the intermediate level, you have tools like iMovie. iMovie is Mac only, so that can be a little difficult for students who are on Windows or other platforms. But say if you're teaching in a computer lab or in some other kind of controlled environment, iMovie could be a great option. And then at the advanced level, DaVinci Resolve is a competitor to professional level video editors like Premiere, like Final Cut Pro. But the biggest difference is DaVinci Resolve has two versions: the studio version, which is the paid version, and the free version, which for any assignment that you could ever need will be plenty. It has a few features that are missing from the paid version that are really specific to video professionals, but for academic use, the free version is great, and that's what I'm using for my course. My students, DaVinci Blackmagic Design, the developer of the software, has many great tutorials that you can share to learn how to use it. So that's a really great tool on the advanced level. Again, how can generative AI help? Suno, just like it's very usable for podcasts, it can also be used for video, for intro music, outro music, background music. Also, if students are compiling any footage or slideshows or images, things like that, it can create music that can sort of sit as a bed underneath what they create. And Video AI is a tool that can generate videos with generative AI, but it can also curate stock video clips. So that's what I used, and you'll be seeing a demonstration of it in a moment. I advise my students to use Video AI to create short videos with stock footage based on a topic. So they'd feed a prompt into it, similar to what their video was about, and they would use Video AI to generate this short video that would create clips that they could then use to edit into their video. And then Adobe Express, in addition to being a great free editing tool, can also create images and graphics using Adobe's Firefly engine. So if there are graphics or elements that your students want that are not available any other way, they can ask Adobe Express to generate it for them. So here's another example. So this assignment in my course, the students were creating their own podcasts, and I tasked them with creating a social media video to promote the podcast. So this particular student did their video on online shopping. So they used Video AI to generate a short video about online shopping, scrap the audio narration, and use clips from it interspersed within with their own voiceover. So let's take a look.
That one thing you swore yourself you wouldn't buy, and then next thing you know it's at your doorstep? Hi, welcome to Click the Cart, the podcast where we're here to unpack impulse expenses and viral shopping trends. Because let's be honest, did you really need to buy that? Whether you're budgeting or luxury splurging, we're here to talk about how social media shapes our spending habits. Whether you're bougie or living on a budget, we're here to find out why did you add it to your cart. Follow us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, where we stream once a week.
You can see elements of what she included in the video. Those little interstitial graphics and animations and those short video clips were all generated by InVideo AI. So she had the InVideo AI tool generate a longer video for her, and then she was able to take elements from the clips that it curated to incorporate into her video. So this was used as an exercise to show how students could best take advantage of the visual medium to express what they were talking about. So the clips, and it just saved her time from having, there's the first graphic of a, box on someone's doorstep. So instead of her having to Google that specifically, she could just Google, make me a video, or use InVideo to generate a video about online shopping that would generate or curate a handful of stock clips that were relevant to what her video was about. And again, another sample rubric for assessing video assignments. Of course, all of your assignments are going to be a little bit different, but this rubric touches on some of the elements that are specific to video, like this cinematic elements aspect has all of the video elements sort of built into it, and then all of the content, experience, collaboration ones all have specific criteria specific to creating a video. And then this article is a really great read on using multimedia assessments as well. So now when, I'm an instructional designer, and a lot of my life for the last year or so has been helping faculty learn how to use Brightspace. And Brightspace comes with a really great tool for creating multimedia assessments called video assignments. So what video assignments can do, and again, you can add them to any module in a Brightspace course, existing activities, video assignment, choose individual. You can name the assignment, give directions, and set up how you want to score it. And again, this is universal to CUNY. This isn't a campus-specific tool. So yeah, once you've got your title, your instructions, how you're going to evaluate, you can either grade or add an auto pass function where basically students can just submit video and it'll automatically give them a passing grade. Open it up and it gives you this dashboard to show you what the state of all of your students are in for this particular assignment. Then on the student side, they can open the video, open the topic, and then they're facing this screen. They can record directly in, especially if you're doing some scaffolding to get students comfortable speaking on camera or recording their own voice. They can record directly into it or upload an edited file. Then once the file is uploaded, my video stop playing, but you'll have to take my word for it. There we go. Okay. So
you know that one thing you swore yourself you wouldn't buy?
You can check to make sure it uploaded properly, and then they can click submit video and submit. So it's super intuitive. It's easy for the students to use. They don't have to mess around with putting their video on Google Drive or Dropbox or trying to email you a huge file or anything like that. It makes it very simple. And it also includes this peer review feature where you can require the students to review their classmates' work and give feedback, just like you would on in a discussion forum. And then on the grading side, you're faced with that same dashboard. You can open up the video, and one feature that's really cool, I know VoiceThread is here, and this is a really great feature in VoiceThread as well.
You know that one thing you swore yourself you wouldn't buy? And then next thing you know, it's at your doorstep? Hi, welcome to Click the Card.
You can do timeline-based commenting. So you can add a comment. So here I stopped at 9 seconds. I add this comment, and it actually
the podcast where we're here to unpack impulse expenses.
Tags my comment with the position on the timeline. So the student, instead of trying to especially if the student's video is long,
the podcast where
it makes it very easy.
And viral shopping trends, because
identify the specific elements of the video that you're commenting on, and then you can review it add your comments, give a score, save and publish, and it publishes the grade to your Brightspace gradebook. So again, thank you so much. This QR code will allow you to download the presentation, and that's my email at the bottom. I am a big believer in the power of multimedia to communicate ideas, and I would be super happy to help you brainstorm if you're considering incorporating a multimedia assessment like one of the ones I showed you into your course. And I think we still have a few minutes, so I'd love to hear any thoughts or questions or ideas that you all may have about incorporating multimedia assessments in your courses. Yes, please.
Yeah, great presentation, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I very much appreciate that.
Yeah, I also do multimedia with CUNY Online, so I really appreciate all the way you're using media, especially with people who are new to doing media. Is a really unique way to engage with learners and teaching them tools. I was curious with students who are new to, for instance, like producing a podcast or a video. Were there points where bringing AI into the creation process almost became like its own, would it potentially sidetrack them or be a distraction, or almost like the way that AI itself could be kind of quirky and unpredictable? What was that like? Did it ever seem to interfere with their ability to wrap their heads around media production?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it interfered. I mean, from the beginning of the course, I had them using AI. So the Notebook LM assignment was literally the first thing they had to do was to create this the podcast with or the audio summary with Notebook LM. But I mean, for me, in addition to teaching them about media, I really wanted them to understand, on a broader level, how AI was going to affect them. I mean, this course was really meant to be, used in like a career readiness capacity. So students who were doing this master's program could have marketable skills to go get internships and get jobs. So I really wanted them to also see how AI can help them create all this content. But it really wasn't a hindrance at all. And I think the students, and I didn't require the students to use it either. The only assignment that actually required it was the Notebook LM assignment. Everything else, I told them, if you want to find some stock footage on YouTube or images elsewhere, whatever, you can do that. But for the students who tried it, I think they found that it made things really easy for them. Like Suno was a big hit. Everyone really loved that because I also incorporated that. My wife does music licensing for a living, and I made sure to bring up the point that you can't just use whatever song. Like if you like a song, you can't use it in a podcast. You need to get a license. But so you can't do that. But you can ask Suno to make a song that sounds like the one you really want to use. And that could be okay. So that was a really great tool to be able to show them how to do that.
Yeah, the results were great. Like the work they did that you shared was really great.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, it was good. I was very happy with how it worked out. Yes.
I was wondering if you could comment a little bit on the quality of the assignment, what you've noticed between students who did adopt AI tools in their creation process versus students who maybe avoided it or didn't want to.
I don't think I couldn't really identify a specific difference. I think it really just sort of came down to preference and what the students were trying to do. I can't really say with any specificity that students who use the AI tools did better or worse. It just really came down to a matter of preference. But for the students that did use the AI tools, the feedback that I got about using them was generally very good. Like they thought it helped, they thought it made things easier, and especially I'm covering creating a podcast, creating social media videos, and managing a social media channel all in one semester. So I had such a short time span to do all these things. I wanted to do anything I could do to sort of take the load off the students for the stuff that wasn't really, I didn't need them to learn how to find stock video footage. I really needed them to make a video. So anything I could do to make it easier for them, I wanted to do. I think we have time for one more question or one more comment. Did we have any other question? Great. Well, again, thank you so much. And please reach out to me if you have any questions. I'd love to talk to any of you more about multimedia assessment. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sorry.